Okay, this is my negative video for Kimberly Ramirez's affirmative side of whether or not we should go to the moon to harvest energy. First off, I'll be going to refute her points. Her main point that I picked up on was the fact that right now we use fossil fuels. She talks about using cars. Cars are the second largest use of fossil fuels and are one of the main reasons that we are going through a global warming. Global warming was her big point. So I see that, yeah, I understand there's scientific proof saying that the burning of fossil fuels does cause global warming. However, global warming is, I don't see that being very relative. I think it's a little far off of the point. I I think that it is real. It is a problem, but going to the moon to get the H3 helium-3 from the moon surface, yeah, it's clean energy, but right now, according to Forbes.com, we are using less and less fossil fuels by the year. We went from 8% in 2013, we went from the difference between 2012 and 2013 was 5%, and 2013 to 2014 is so far we're at 8% less than what we were the previous year. So we're using less fossil fuels by the day and using different sources of energy for automobiles, which is a big point that she talked about. We're coming up with hybrids and electric vehicles every day. It's a huge craze. So I don't see that as being a reason to go to the moon to get the helium-3 from the Earth or the moon's surface. She also talked about running out of fossil fuel. I was unable to find any evidence saying that I mean, yeah, it's inevitable. We will eventually run out of fossil fuel. But I don't, because of how much we use, but the fact that we're using less and less means that we're going to prolong what we have. And so, again, I really don't see the fact that we may or may not eventually run out of fossil fuels as being a reason, a big reason to go. Yes, the moon has clean energy on the surface, H3. According to Fortune.com, China has actually landed on the moon and already begun to harvest and process some of the H3 to bring back. There is a little over 1 billion tons within the first few meters of the Earth's surface of the dust on the Earth's surface that contains H3. We would need 25 tons of H3 in order to power the U.S. for a year, only a year. So yeah, there is enough. I guess there is enough H3 on the moon's surface to power the U.S., but on the account of that's just the U.S. and we are not the largest, consumer of power. There are other countries, larger countries, China, Russia, and half of Europe, England, France, Italy, etc. So I don't know if there is enough to make a difference, really. Also, the cost, I mean, is probably the biggest argument against it. Majorly, it would cost $3 billion per ton of H3. And that is including going to the moon and bringing it back and processing it into nuclear fusion. So $3 billion for a ton, and we would need 25 tons to power only the U.S. as of last year, the total power consumed. It just seems a little far-fetched. It's way too expensive. I understand that from what I've read that we do have some funding for it, but not nearly enough to get anything done to make it a legitimate source of power. Russia, for instance, according to the Pacific Standard University Science magazine, Russia had a plan by 2030 to go to the moon and harvest energy and power and like water and other things. but they ran out of money. It's going to cost way too much money to make it worthwhile compared to what we already have on Earth. So, my argument against going to the moon for energy is that it's way too expensive, and the fact that we have other sources of energy here on Earth, solar, which is huge. Solar is, for the most part, forever. It'll definitely last longer than H3 can, even if we get it from the moon, given the fact that no sun, no planet Earth. So, I mean, as long as we will be around, we will have energy coming from the sun. Um, and other things, electricity, we get our electricity from windmills as well too. So there's just so many other ways that are fraction of the cost. I mean, so much less money and so much more practical than going to the moon to get power. Yeah, there is clean energy on the moon, but is it accessible? No. Uh, Plausibly, no, not even close. Um, that was pretty much all of her points were the global warming, the running out of fossil fuel, and the fact that there is clean energy. So yes, there is clean energy on the moon. I don't think we're going to run out of fossil fuel anytime soon, and global warming is a product of burning fossil fuels. But I don't see that as being a prime point to drive us to the moon for energy. And yeah, other than the fact that it's way too expensive and just not plausible, the United States government doesn't think they're even capable of. The NASA doesn't think that the Department of Energy has the technology to turn it into power, and the U.S. Department of Energy doesn't think that NASA is capable of bringing it back. So there's too much to refute going to the moon. It's just not plausible.